Discover the incredible transformation, Billionaire's daughter's hidden voice revealed by Black musician. Ava stepped out onto the glass balcony of her family's penthouse, the city sprawling beneath her like a glistening jewel. The stunning skyline of Chicago was a backdrop to her golden cage. As the daughter of a billionaire, her life was filled with luxury, fancy cars, designer clothes, parties at the most exclusive venues. But none of it mattered. Ava felt stifled under her father's colossal expectations, the weight of which pressed down on her heart like a heavy stone. She wanted something real. Something hers. That yearning grew sharper when she spotted a community park across the street. It was vibrant, filled with laughter and joy, a harsh contrast to the sterile opulence of her own life. These families were fighting to keep this space, a sanctuary for kids like Jamal, who lived across town. Jamal, a talented musician, used his art to voice the struggles of his community after losing his best friend to violence. Ava had seen him once, performing in a corner near the park, pouring his heart into every note. That night, his raw talent struck a chord deep within her. She listened, captivated, and began to see her own struggles mirrored in his songs. Torn between her family's legacy and her sense of what's right, Ava felt compelled to reach out to Jamal. She had to understand what gave his music such power. She found him after a performance one rainy evening. Their connection was instant. They shared their dreams and doubts in that dimly lit cafe, a world away from her penthouse life. They were two souls from radically different backgrounds, united by the same relentless drive for change. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As spring brought new life to the city, Ava discovered her father's plan to demolish the park. The thought of trading it for a shiny shopping center pierced her heart. This sacred ground meant everything to Jamal's community. It was where bond forged, dreams took flight, and resilience thrived. Determined to fight back, Ava devised a plan. She wanted Jamal to perform at her father's charity event, to put the struggles of their community front and center. But her vision collided with her father's world of excess. As the charity night approached, tension bubbled between Ava and her father. She could feel the chasm between them widening. On the night of the event, Jamal took the stage, and Ava's heart raced as he poured his soul into every note. The audience remained awestruck, reflecting the raw beauty of struggle and hope. Yet there was Ava, dressed in her designer gown, feeling like a ghost at her own event. The clash between their two worlds was palpable, a painful reminder of her privilege. Then, amidst the shimmering lights and perfect smiles, a tragedy struck. News broke of another life lost to senseless violence, and while the guests' laughter dulled, Ava felt a heavy silence weighing on her. She stood at a precipice, questioning everything. Would she forge her own path, defy her father's legacy, and lend her voice to the very people who were silenced? As Jamal's heart-wrenching performance echoed through the venue, Ava made her choice. In that moment of silence her heart beat steady with newly ignited determination. This was just the beginning of their fight. Together, they would not just honor the lost, they would rise. How far would Ava go to reclaim her voice when faced with her father's power? As their lives intertwined against a backdrop of injustice, the answers loomed on the horizon. Begging to be discovered. Ava stood frozen, her pulse pounding in her ears as Jamal's last note hung in the air. The silence that followed was thick. She could feel the prying eyes of the wealthy guests, faces mixed with curiosity and judgment, tracing the line of tension that had become a familiar thread between her and her father. How could you bring him here? Her father's voice cut through the quiet fury building inside her. His gaze was piercing, a mix of disbelief and disdain. Ava felt her stomach knot. The fear of disappointing him was an instinct born of years of rules and expectations. Yet tonight, the air brims with something else: hope. This isn't just about us. Dad," she said, her voice steady, surprising even herself. "This park, Jamal, he's showing everyone a part of our city that you're trying to ignore. People deserve to know the truth." Her father's expression twisted, anger and confusion battling it out. "Those people need to understand their place. We help them by providing jobs, not by showcasing their struggles." "No. That's not how it works." Ava took a step closer, her heart racing. The warmth of conviction flooded her. Real change starts with understanding. It starts with voices like Jamal's. They're powerful. Gasps filled the room. Ava could almost hear the collective intake of breath from her father's social circle, shocked that she dared to challenge him. Yet for the first time, she felt alive. Jamal's music coursed through her like a river breaking its banks, pushing her to confront everything she had avoided in their gilded bubble. As she turned back to the stage, Jamal caught her eye, unswayed by the tension. He had finished performing, and the applause had started building, but what she saw in his gaze made her heart flutter. Trust, maybe. Their purpose aligned, even while they walked two very different paths in life. After the applause finally dwindled, he stepped off the stage, a mixture of exhilaration and uncertainty clouding his features. Ava felt a pang of longing. She wanted to connect with him, to express everything she was experiencing. "Wow, you were amazing," she said, forcing her self-consciousness aside. "People need to hear more from you." "Thanks, Ava," he replied, his smile warm yet unsure. "But what do we do now? It's not just about one performance, you know. This fight needs more than just music." She took a deep breath. His words lodged themselves in her heart like thorns. He was right, the park's fate rested in more than just the notes of a song, and her father wouldn't yield easily. Doubts flickered at the edges of her resolve. How could she create tangible change when the very foundation of her life stood against her? "I'll help you organize a protest," she blurted, a rush of determination guiding her decision. "We'll make sure everyone knows what is happening. They can't ignore us when we're loud enough." Jamal's eyes widened, and for a moment, they both stayed still, locked in a silent pact that buzzed with possibility. Then, the moment shattered as her father's booming voice cut through the crowd again. "Ava! Enough of this nonsense. We're leaving." Panic twisted in her gut, but she held strong. This was her moment to break free. "I want tea. I won't walk away from this anymore." The weight of unspoken promises loomed between them, and Jamal nodded slowly, understanding that the roads ahead would be treacherous. As she faced her father, Ava felt like she was on the brink of something monumental. But the question loomed large over her: how far was she ready to go? The stakes raised higher as she prepared to challenge everything she knew. But then the world shifted again when she saw Jamal, who had stepped forward, meeting her father's gaze as if he had no fear of what was to come. "Let's make some noise, Ava. What would it cost them to truly fight for what they believed in?" Ava's heart raced as she stood her ground, the weight of her father's glaring disapproval like a physical force against her skin. The crowd around them held its breath, waiting to see if she would falter. 1,000 thoughts raced through her mind, each one bidding her to turn back, to slip back into the safety of her privileged existence. But she couldn't. Not now. Jamal's steady gaze anchored her, a silent reminder of their shared purpose. "I'm with you," he said quietly, as if he could read her thoughts. His words wrapped around her like a lifeline, pulling her back from the edge of uncertainty. "Don't just stand there, Ava." Her father's voice echoed harshly. "This isn't a game. You're embarrassing yourself. These people," he gestured wildly at the guests, "they don't want to hear about your misguided ideals." "Maybe they should." Ava shot back, rage and clarity melding within her. Each word unfurled like a banner, revealing a truth she had kept hidden for far too long. "You always taught me that true leadership is about serving others, Dad. You may not care about showing their struggles, but I do. I can't stand by and let you pretend everything is perfect." The room buzzed with whispers, each gasp and murmur intensifying the monumental shift taking place. For the first time, her father's defiance seemed tempered by a flicker of doubt. That crack was all it took for her resolve to strengthen. "Please, everyone deserves a voice," she continued, her pulse steadying. "And Jamal's voice matters. The park, it's a lifeline for so many. We can't let it be silenced just because it makes us uncomfortable. We need to be the change." A quiet awe filled the room, and as her words hung in the air, Ava glanced around. She could see some guests nodding, their expressions transformed from skepticism to support. The tide was turning, and hope ignited within her. "Enough." Her father barked, but it was less authoritative now, more desperate. "You think you can change the world with a protest? This is not how it works. Perhaps you've forgotten, Dad," she interrupted gently, her voice piercing through the anger. "The world doesn't change when no one is willing to listen. Jamal's music is the start. It's the story of lives that have been dismissed for too long. It is more than just sound, it is their hope." The stare down between her father and Jamal was electric. Ava could sense the tension, like an army gathering for battle. Just as her father looked ready to unleash another tirade, Jamal stepped forward again, fearless and unwavering. "Your daughter is right," he said, voice calm but firm. "You think wealth equates to power, but real power comes from connection. The stories we share have the strength to resonate through every wall. Together, we can show everyone how beautiful and vital that connection is." Ava felt the knot in her stomach ease. Jamal's words were powerful, dripping with raw honesty. This was not just about her anymore, it was about a movement, a collective chorus of voices echoing for change. The crowd, still in disbelief, started to murmur with excitement. Ideas sparked like flint, and in that moment, Ava could see possibilities unfurling. She thought of the social media campaign, the rallies, the petitions. There was so much they could do. "I'll talk to the others," she decided aloud, her resolve crystallizing. "I can reach out to community groups. We'll need their support. And I'll write songs," Jamal added, excitement lightening his features. "Songs that speak to this struggle. We'll circulate them." Ava sensed the shift, the moment felt alive. Yet she knew they were only at the beginning of a long road ahead. Facing her father again was bound to be difficult. She needed to prepare for what her fight might cost her. But her heart burned with determination. No more silence, she whispered more to herself than anyone around her, fueling her growing belief. "It's time for the world to listen." As she locked eyes with Jamal, something solidified between them, a burgeoning alliance that felt bigger than either of them. Yet, in the distance, her father's voice, once powerful, began to tremble with something like fear. "Ava, you don't know what you're getting into. What if he's right?" The thought crept in, a shadow in her resolve. What would they lose? Would they shatter her family? Do we have the courage to let the truth in? The question lingered in the air, and Ava understood, the battle was just beginning, and the costs weren't clear yet. And as the crowd started to buzz with energy and ideas, Ava felt a taste of what was to come, but uncertainty hung heavily over her next move. What would unfold when the curtain of comfort falls? Ava took a deep breath, the atmosphere crackling like electricity. The murmurs from the crowd rose higher, an impatient tide that threatened to sweep her away. She turned to Jamal, his presence a reassuring anchor in the sea of uncertainty. "What now?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. The urgency in her chest echoed loudly, but Jamal's eyes held a quiet strength. She knew they had to act, and fast. They needed momentum. "We create a platform," he replied, his brow furrowing with excitement. "If we want people to listen, we need a space for them to share their stories. Let South use that park. We can host open mic nights, invite the community to come and express themselves." Ava nodded, the idea sparking a flame of hope within her. "Yes. And we can bring in local artists, musicians, anyone who wants to share their truth. We'll make it a celebration of voices. At that moment, her father's voice cut through the whirlwind around them once more. Ava, you're too naive to see what you're really doing. This isn't just about you playing the hero. She turned to him, her anger flaring but also a flicker of concern. Tell me, Dad, what's wrong with wanting to help? What are you doing? He continued, frustration rolling off him like waves. You'll only hurt yourself, and for what? A few voices that won't change anything. A few voices. She shot back, realizing the weight of his words. What you see as noise, I see as a chorus of change. Every person out there has a story that matters. You taught me to care, to make a difference. The crowd's enthusiasm ebbed and flowed. Some heads nodded in agreement, while others shifted uncomfortably, caught between loyalty and the call for change. I truly believe we can make a difference, Jamal reiterated, stepping in beside her. One song at a time, one person at a time, we can start shifting perspectives. What do you know about the world? Her father challenged, disdain creeping into his tone. You come from nothing. How can you speak to others' struggles? Jamal's face remained calm, though his hands clenched at his sides. I speak from experience. You don't know what it's like to grow up without a safety net, to rely on hope when all you feel is despair. Ava glanced around. She saw not just people, but potential allies. Many were leaning in, listening to this exchange, weighing their own lives against the ideal her father upheld and the urgency Jamal and she now embodied. It's easy to dismiss people when you've never walked in their shoes, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. But we can bring those shoes into the daylight. We can give them a stage. And at that moment, she understood that she wasn't just standing against her father. She was standing for something far larger than they could fathom. A ripple of raw honesty seemed to wave over the crowd, each person absorbing the clash of ideals. Ava, her father began, a hint of chaos in his words, you can't just waltz in and think this will change anything. You'll risk everything. Suddenly the weight of those words sank deep into her chest. Is that what this is for you? She challenged. Is it a risk? Or is it a chance to make things right? Silence filled the space, thick and heavy. People shifted, glances exchanged, some in fear, others in expectation. Do we take the risk? Jamal leaned closer to her, searching her eyes, seeking affirmation amid the rising tension. Ava's heart raced. I have to try. We have to try. As she sensed the crowd's collective heartbeat, she realized this wasn't just a battle for her but for every voiceless soul who had ever felt unseen. This was it where change began, and it felt terrifyingly beautiful, but her father's face hardened, the shadows of his doubt deepening. Then so be it. But remember, when the chips fall, they might not be what you wished for. Ava's resolve shimmered, yet fresh fear twisted in her belly. Could she hold on to her path amid the storm they were about to face? Would they step into this unknown world, knowing the people they might lose along the way, as the crowd around them began to murmur and shuffle? Ava wondered if she was ready for what she had just ignited. What were the true consequences of their fight? And would they have the strength to face them together? The unfolding chaos could either empower them or tear them apart. Only time would tell. Ava felt the tension swirl in the air, thick with unspoken words. The crowd was alive, curious, anxious, hopeful. Their eyes flickered with a mix of admiration and uncertainty, as if she were standing at a precipice about to leap into unknown depths. Okay. She burst out, adrenaline pulsing through her veins. Let's put this into motion. We need to meet right now, set a date. The urgency in her voice burst forth, igniting a flicker of excitement in the crowd. Jamal nodded, his face alight with enthusiasm. Let's say this weekend, he suggested, eyes shining. Friday night. We'll spread the word. Maybe set up a theme. A theme, Ava mused, her mind racing. What if we celebrate resilience? That's what so many of us show every day. We have stories of struggle, hope, and triumph. The crowd began murmuring, energy shifting from doubt to possibility. She could see it, the spark igniting within them. Her gaze shifted to her father, arms crossed, but even he had softened, the glare dimmed slightly, replaced by a growing concern. "You need to be careful," he warned, his voice low but steady. "Taking risks is one thing, but putting yourself on a stage like this? You could expose every flaw, every weakness." Ava swallowed hard. Each word hit her like a chill. Was it really weakness, or was it strength to lay bare the heart? "But isn't that what connects us?" she replied, her voice shaking only a little. "To stand together, to share our truths. Isn't that worth the risk?" The crowd erupted into applause, a wave of sound she could feel in her bones. Jamal raised his hands above his head. "Who's with us? We can gather stories, build this platform. We can show the world who we are." As the crowd erupted, Ava felt a warmth spread through her. This wasn't just a reaction, they were ready to join her in this journey. Eyes glimmered with shared light, and for a moment, everything felt clearer. They were ready to embark on this adventure together. "Let us do it," someone shouted from the back. "Let us bring all our stories." Ava looked at the faces around her, excitement mingling with fear. A voice in her heart whispered, "What if they failed?" But another, stronger voice pushed her on, daring her to believe. "Then we'll make it a night to remember. Let us bring our voices to life. Let us make posters. Social media. We'll canvass the neighborhood." Jamal said, and with that, a wave of organization unfolded among them. Hours blurred into a whirlwind of planning and sharing ideas, voices merging into a symphony of excited chatter. They prepared flyers, made social media posts, and even brainstormed potential performances. Each idea brought them closer, ensuring that more people would be part of this special night. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Ava stood atop a park bench, feeling almost like a conductor presiding over an orchestra of emotions and power. "Let us not just create noise," she called out, "let us create a movement." A wave of cheer erupted, shaking the very ground she stood on. But even as their fervor built the momentum, she felt a flicker of uncertainty seep back in. This was just the beginning, a small step towards something vast and unknown. After the excitement settled, Ava noticed her father had stepped aside, his lips pressed together, eyes darkening as he spoke softly to a friend nearby. "What are you going to do?" Jamal leaned in closer, his excitement still palpable but his expression serious. "I'll face whatever comes," Ava replied softly, the weight of her father's reaction sinking in. "But..." Before she could finish, a man from the back shouted, "Are there limits to what we can say? What if someone wants to speak their truth but it's hard to hear?" A surge of weight settled around her. What if their stories touched on the discomfort that her father represented? What hidden dangers awaited them? The very real prospect of hurt, anger, and vulnerability loomed ahead. As the shadows grew longer, Ava felt the impatience of the crowd fall into a stillness, reflecting both fear and anticipation. She thought of the evening to come, its promises, its risks, and feared the voices of the past could haunt their gathering. Are we really ready for this? She wondered, glancing at Jamal. What would it take for them to truly unleash their stories, regardless of the consequences? Could they confront the shadows together without faltering? Was she ready to embrace the beautiful chaos of vulnerability that could either connect their hearts or shatter her dream altogether, with her father's doubt echoing in her mind and the weight of the crowd's hopes resting on her shoulders? Ava knew this was only the beginning of a much larger journey. The true challenge lay ahead, and her heart raced thinking about what would happen once the night arrived. Could they rise to meet it? Or would the weight of their truths pull them under? The days raced past, each one blurring into the next as Ava prepared for the night that seemed to loom larger with every sunrise. Her heart thudded in her chest, a constant reminder of the fear beneath her excitement. The crowd had rallied around her, but deep down, she felt the weight of her father's concern like a shadow hovering close. Would they truly embrace vulnerability, or would doubt pull them apart? As Friday approached, the energy in the community felt electric. Flyers adorned the lampposts, social media buzzed with excitement, and stories began to trickle in from participants eager to share. The titles and themes of their truths began to take on lives of their own. Each individual's struggle was a thread woven into a larger tapestry of resilience. Yet, with each story she heard, Ava found herself battling her own insecurities. Would her voice be powerful enough to match theirs? On the day of the event, she arrived at the community center with Jamal, the space buzzing with activity. The scent of fresh paint mingled with the crispness of the fall air, and laughter bounced off the walls. Everywhere she looked, faces filled with hope met her gaze. Some looked nervous, others eager, but the common denominator was the palpable anticipation. Together, they were about to share pieces of their hearts. Ava. A voice broke her reverie. It was Marcus, an artist known in the community. I'm here to set up the visual art display. He gestured to a collection of canvases, each portraying a different struggle and triumph. Ava's breath caught as she admired the raw emotion captured in each brushstroke. This is exactly what we need, she said, awestruck. Just like we talked about, right? We're not shying away from hard truths. He smiled, enthusiasm streaming from every word. It lit a spark in Ava. As the crowd began to trickle in, she noticed her father standing at the edge, arms crossed tightly, his face set in stern lines. A swell of anxiety tightened her chest. Was he truly ready to hear what would be revealed? Are you all right? Jamal asked, sensing her hesitation. Yeah, just everything feels overwhelming. What if it doesn't go well? Ava confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. You're stronger than you think, he encouraged, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You've inspired all these people. Just let your heart speak. As the evening began, the small auditorium filled with people sharing their stories, laughter interspersed with tears, a beautifully chaotic symphony of life. Each individual stood, some reading poetry and others sharing personal accounts of loss, recovery, and hope. The array of emotions filled the space, wrapping around Ava like a warm blanket, but her own story still weighed heavily on her heart. Let us remember, she thought as she watched the crowd respond with empathy and support, the real power lies in the stories we're afraid to tell. Finally, it was her turn. As she approached the microphone, her palms sweaty, the crowd's chatter faded, and time felt suspended. She was met with expectant gazes, some encouraging, others with hints of worry. But amidst the uncertainty, her focus drifted back to her father. The softening of his expression deeply encouraged her. Taking a deep breath, her voice broke the silence. I stand here today with so much passion for the stories we all carry, not just the good, but the struggles that shape us. She began to share the most intimate parts of her own story, the struggles of feeling invisible behind wealth, the heaviness of her father's expectations, and the yearning to be seen as her true self. Vulnerability poured from her like the colors of the artist's canvases filling the room. The audience leaned in, captivated by her raw honesty. As she spoke, she felt the weight begin to lift, fear replaced by an incredible sense of belonging. Suddenly, moments of brave connections began to form in the crowd. Tears flowed, eyes made contact, and some even stood to share their own experiences. But just as she finished her narrative, a voice rang out from the back, a woman, tears streaming down her cheeks, standing up in defiance. You spoke to my soul. She cried, shaking, but what if we aren't ready for what comes next? Ava's heart raced. The question lingered in the air like a weight, heavy with possibility. Had they truly opened a door that could not be closed? Could they really navigate the storm of emotions they had unleashed together? As the crowd took a deep breath, Ava realized that the real transformation, both hers and theirs, was just beginning. Would they be able to support one another through the aftermath of their truths, or would the flood of emotions prove too overwhelming? With the uncertainty thickening the atmosphere, she knew they were all teetering on the edge of something extraordinary and terrifying. What lay ahead could reshape everything they thought they knew. Ava stood frozen, the crowd's energy swirling around her like a tempest. She could feel every heartbeat, every whispered conversation threading through the air, stitching together the tapestry of emotions they had all just laid bare. The woman's words echoed in her mind, resonating with a truth that brought her a mix of trepidation and hope. What if they truly weren't ready? As she stepped back from the mic, unsure of what to say next, Jamal moved closer, intensity written across his face. Don't let fear silence you now, Ava. Look at what you just started. The audience, still charged from her powerful story, began to murmur about their own moments of vulnerability. It was infectious. The bravery seemed to ripple through the crowd. Ava could feel it, too, the quiet stirrings of a brave awakening. Encouraged by the shared vulnerability, several people began to share, one voice layered atop another until the space trembled with a transparent discourse. Ava. It was Marcus, his eyes gleaming with passion. Why don't you guide this moment? Let us dive deeper. There's so much we can uncover together. Taking a deep breath, she felt the weight of his words. She could guide them, lead them through the tangled emotions that so often went unsaid. Nodding slowly, she stepped back to the microphone. What if we took a moment to acknowledge that fear is often where connection begins? The room shifted, the emphasis mellowing as vulnerability took center stage once more. Several participants stood up, sharing raw, unpolished stories of heartache and healing, of addiction, loss, and unfulfilled dreams. Ava watched the room transform, faces reflecting their shared struggles, a tapestry growing denser with each heartfelt account. As stories intertwined, laughter and tears blended into a harmonious melange. The questions hung in the air but felt somehow lighter now. Could they really support one another? The atmosphere warmed with resilience, the crowd rising like a tide, ready to embrace whatever came next. But then, just as the event reached its zenith, a deep, resonant voice broke through. Carl, the usually stoic man who lived on the other side of town, stood teetering with emotion. I've been quiet my whole life, too scared to speak my truth. But what I heard tonight made me realize that silence isn't strength, it's surrender. A palpable tension gripped the room. Ava watched as others turned to Carl, recognizing the significance of his admission. Here was a man who had fought a lifetime of battles behind closed doors, finally surrendering his silence. In that moment, Ava understood the real essence of the evening. It wasn't just about sharing stories, but about igniting a collective fire that could blaze a trail through their community. Carl, you've broken a wall for so many. You're not alone anymore. She exclaimed, her voice ringing with warmth. Around the room, heads nodded, and hands found new connections. People moved closer, leaning in with newfound camaraderie. The spontaneity crackled in the air, like being on the brink of something monumental. Still reeling from the layered depth of honesty surrounding her, Ava suddenly felt a hot rush of determination. She glanced toward her father, who sat with tears welling in his eyes. In that moment, she saw the shift within him, the cresting wave of understanding that could reshape their relationship. As the crowd continued to share, laughter and tears blending into one, Ava realized this was only the beginning. They were opening up to growth, to healing. But would they find a way to weave these connections into their everyday lives, or would the rawness of emotion wane beneath the weight of social expectations? The night was alive with promise, yet the uncertainties lingered. Ava felt exhilarated but aware what lay ahead was uncharted territory. Would they navigate the powerful journey of transformation together, or would the rising tide threaten to drown them once more? With hearts pounding, the crowd turned to Ava, their eyes alight with faith. The next words she spoke could spell inclusivity or division. Are we ready to embrace change? Can we truly support one another in this ongoing journey? The weight of the question hung palpably in the air, as Ava and her community stood on the cusp of everything they thought they could achieve. Ava's heart raced as the weight of the crowd's anticipation settled over her like a warm blanket. She could feel their hopes, their fears, and their need to connect. This was more than just an event, it was a moment that could change everything. She swallowed hard, feeling the gravity of her question echo in the silence. Suddenly, pure adrenaline surged through her. What if we started right here, right now? she said, her voice stronger than before. Let us form small groups, share what change looks like for us. Let us raise our hands and get started. There was a flicker of hesitance, but then like a wave crashing people began to break away, finding partners and clusters, eyes lighting up with the thrill of forging new connections. Jamal was beside her, his smile contagious. Yes. Let us do it. Who else with us? As groups formed, laughter broke the tension, and the sound reverberated through the room. Ava watched as participants began to lean into each other, sharing raw accounts, their voices blending and bouncing off the walls like a choir of healing. It felt electric, a discovery of shared humanity in the midst of individual struggles. She noticed Marcus animatedly explaining a story about a local charity he had been involved with, his hands gesturing wildly as he painted vivid pictures of the families they helped. Across the room, Carl's group opened up even more, his transformation becoming a rallying cry. His voice shook slightly as he recounted painful experiences, but it was clear, he was no longer just the quiet man sitting at the back. He was the voice of many. Ava drifted between groups, her heart swelling with pride. She felt the energies fuse together, expectations swirling and melting away. If anyone had told her a few hours ago that these strangers would bond like this, she wouldn't have believed it. But as the night wore on, Ava sensed an underlying current of worry. It tugged at her, nudging her resolve. Though they were sharing, laughing, and healing together, the question remained, how could they sustain this connection after tonight? She returned to the microphone, unease threading through her words. This feels incredible, doesn't it? But let us be real for a moment. Once we walk out those doors, will we remember these stories? Will we take that connection with us? The room stilled, the laughter fading into thoughtful silence. It was as though the air shifted, people visibly contemplating the permanence of this moment they had created together. Ava scanned their faces, some nodded, others looked skeptical. Change doesn't just happen here, she continued, her voice steady but gentle. It requires effort. It's easy to fall back into our routines, our old patterns of silence and fear. But what if we made a pact tonight? To check in with each other, to keep this dialogue alive. To ensure that vulnerability leads to understanding not just tonight, but every day after. The vulnerability in her proposition hung in the air like a spell. Tension and hope danced on that edge. It was powerful, profound, yet daunting. People began to break the silence, tentative ideas drifting forth. Yes. We need a group chat, suggested a woman in the corner. I'll organize it, Marcus chimed in, determination brightening his eyes. Carl nodded, his newfound voice firm. Let us form a support circle. Let us meet monthly to keep this energy going. Ava felt a surge of triumph as enthusiastic murmurs rippled through the crowd, gathering strength. They were ready to make a commitment, to nurture these connections. But the incendiary spirit of the night sparked something deeper within her, a realization of her own journey. The looming question hung in her mind: was she truly ready to become a catalyst for change beyond this night, to lead this movement she had ignited? As the crowd erupted into plans and promises, Ava took a step back, the weight of potential heavy upon her shoulders. In the chaos, she whispered to herself, this is just the beginning. And in that moment of uncertainty, as the connections grew and possibilities expanded, Ava sensed the extraordinary destiny that awaited them all. Would they be able to defy their pasts, break through the invisible barriers, and reveal the truth of who they could become? The night shifted, as the ripple of change felt imminent. Would they rise together, or would they falter at the first challenge when the initial energy wore thin? Ava stepped back, allowing the energy of the room to wash over her. Excitement buzzed in the air, tinged with a hint of anxiety. She watched as small groups bubbled with life, hands moving animatedly, faces lit with new joy and determination. But beneath that surface, she sensed a collective uncertainty. The thrill of connection was threatened by the familiar gravity of doubt. Jamal's voice pierced through her thoughts. Ava, what if we set a date for our first meeting? Let us get it on the calendar. His enthusiasm was infectious, but her heart sank a little. What if tomorrow brought back the routines that had silenced them before? Absolutely, she said, forcing a smile. How about next week? We can choose a date right now. The crowd rallied around Jamal's suggestion, the excitement bubbling up as they debated times and locations. Together, they settled on a park under the grand oak tree, a place respectful of their shared past but hopeful for their future. Ava felt a swell of hope mixed with apprehension. Let us keep the promise we made tonight. Encourage one another, share our struggles, but also our victories. It's going to take all of us. The room erupted with applause and agreement, the air electric once more. But as the noise subsided, Ava could see in many faces, especially Marcus and Carl, that the road ahead wouldn't be smooth. Fear lurked beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to creep back in. Hours slipped by as laughter and exchanges mingled with the promises made. But towards the end of the night, a shadow fell over her heart. She couldn't shake the sense that this was fragile, like a delicate ice sculpture hanging by a thread, ready to shatter at the first sign of pressure. After everyone had spoken, Ava gathered her group for a final huddle. No matter what happens next week, I want you all to know something, she began. We're more than just a collection of stories. We've birthed something here tonight, an opportunity to support each other. It may not change the world, but it can change our corner of it. The group nodded, but a palpable tension hung in the air. She could see worry etched in their brows, eyes searching for reassurance. Are we all ready to take this leap together? Should we make a theme for next week? Something that binds us. Carl stepped forward, hesitating for just a moment. How about, fear to growth? A chance to talk about the things that hold us back. In the light of our stories, it feels possible to face them. His sincerity sparked something deeper within her. He was truly transformed and ready to lead. Yes. We can all share personal fears and how we turn them into stepping stones, Ava encouraged. The group murmured affirmations, slowly filling back with affirming energy, but as they concluded the evening, Ava felt the weight of every promise and possibility hanging above her. She could almost hear the whispers of past failures attempting to drown out the hopes they just built. The commitment felt exhilarating and terrifying all at once. Later that night, after the crowd dispersed, Ava stood alone for a moment, collecting her thoughts in the dimly lit space. She glanced around the room, now empty yet still echoing with the laughter and connections created. What if she failed? What if next week, they lost the momentum? Then a soft voice broke her contemplation. It was Jamal, lingering behind, looking for reassurance. Ava, do you think we're ready for this? His eyes were earnest, reflecting both trust and fear. We must be. I believe we can be, she replied, her voice trembling. Because if we don't try, we'll never know what we're capable of. Even as she spoke, Ava knew she needed to channel her own fear into fuel. She had to lead this movement. What if it became more than just a handful of meetings? What if they could truly transform? The uncertainty coiled tight in her stomach but also ignited a spark of determination. They were no longer just a group of individuals seeking change, they were becoming a family, bound together by their shared ambition. As she watched Jamal nod, she felt a flicker of possibility again. But what lay ahead, the growth or the potential for collapse? Next week held promises and challenges alike. What awaited them under the oak tree? The promise of transformation, and perhaps, the truth of their resilience would soon unfold. Would they rise, or would they fall? Ava stood in the park beneath the sprawling branches of the grand oak tree, her heart racing with anticipation. The sun hung low, casting a warm golden glow over the gathering crowd. Friends, neighbors, and new allies had arrived, each face telling a story. They all shared a singular purpose: to connect, be vulnerable, and spark change. Today was their moment. As she stepped up to the makeshift stage, butterflies danced in her stomach. This was the culmination of weeks of hard work, of standing against the weight of her father's expectations. But here, surrounded by the heartbeat of the community, she finally felt free. Welcome everyone. She called out, her voice laced with excitement. Thank you for showing up today, for bringing your stories, your fears, and your hopes. Together, we're creating a transformation that starts here. A wave of cheers erupted, and her confidence soared. The energy felt electric. Jamal stood beside her, his presence bolstering her resolve. We're here not just to share our stories, but to listen and support each other for the journey ahead. Let us dive into our fears and celebrate our growth. The crowd responded with palpable enthusiasm. Members jumped up to introduce themselves, each brave enough to share their journey. Stories flowed like music, some filled with sorrow, others blazing with hope. As person after person spoke, Ava felt her heart swell. Fear held me back for years, a young woman shared, her voice shaking. But facing it in this space made me feel alive. Ava's eyes glinted with tears. The raw honesty created an immediate bond, each word a thread woven into a tapestry of resilience. As the day progressed, friendships blossomed and connections flourished. Across from Ava, Carl stood up again, his earlier uncertainty replaced by conviction. When I thought I wouldn't be heard, I almost lost my voice altogether. But you all helped me find it, and now I'm ready to amplify the stories of others. The crowd erupted, empowered by his declaration. They were affirming each other, a symphony of strength ringing out through the park. The unity was beautiful, an embodiment of change being born. When the time came for her to share again, Ava stepped to the front, the sunlight illuminating her face. She drew in a deep breath. I was scared to lead, scared of disappointing those around me, but together, we've created something bigger than ourselves. This isn't just about me or my father, it's about all of you. It's about our city. There were nods of understanding. What we do from here matters. We will keep sharing, supporting, and pushing for change. That day was a catalyst, the movement was alive. They began discussing plans for future gatherings, a community mural, and open mic nights to keep the stories flowing. With every shared idea, Ava felt more transformation erupting like a flame. She hadn't just found her voice, she had ignited others. But amidst the revelry, a shadow shifted through the crowd. Her father was there, arms folded, watching with a mixture of disbelief and approval. "Dad," she began, hesitating at the sight of him. But he interrupted with a raised hand, a flicker of unexpected emotion on his face. "I can't pretend I wasn't against this, Ava. But seeing everyone come together, maybe I was wrong. Maybe this connection is what you need. I want to help." Ava blinked, tears springing to her eyes. The weight of her father's words settled deep within her like a bomb. They stood at the same intersection, prepared to embrace a shared journey. "Dad, together we can do so much. We can elevate voices and help both communities, not dismiss them. Let us show everyone what we can create." Acceptance shone between them, a new bond forged in the face of adversity. And just like that, Ava looked around, feeling invigorated, looking into the eyes of countless individuals who had sparked each other's courage. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a magnificent palette of colors across the sky, they all stood in unity, embers of change igniting within each heart. It was time to take the next step. This was not the end, it was a beginning. A beginning of voices healed, stories shared, and lives transformed. The weight that had once pressed down on her was lifted. Ava understood that freedom didn't come from wealth or privilege, it came from connection, courage, and love. In that park, under the grand oak tree, Ava knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. Together, they would continue to rise, unfolding their powerful narrative amid the city skyline, embracing the journey towards change. And now, dear friends, it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss out on future stories of transformation just like this one. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts. Comment below and share your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this inspiring video with at least 5 friends who need to see how powerful change can be. Together, let us continue this journey of connection.